What's the richest thing you have seen someone do? I had just turned 17 a few days prior and had some money saved to buy a piece of shit car for $2K. It's all I could afford to buy myself at the time and I did not want any financial help from my family. After driving it for 10 miles, smoke started to pour out of the hood and the temperature of the car was in the red zone. I let the car cool down, drove another 5 miles, and it happened again. I called my mom and dad for help to no avail, so then I called my grandma, also known as Noni. Well, Noni flipped a shit that I wasn't given a safer/better car from my parents. So she picked me up, gave me the keys to her 2001 Mercedes E320 and had me drive her to the Mercedes dealership where she then bought herself a brand new Mercedes G-Class that had just come out a few months prior. This all happened within an hour. I remember thinking at the time, damn, I hope I can be rich enough one day to buy a brand new Mercedes on the spot. Richest thing I ever saw. Love you, Noni. So one of my bullshit jobs in college was doing door-to-door pamphlet bombing and collecting donations for environmental initiatives in the SF Bay Area. Normally, it's all volunteer stuff, but this time they were hiring people as it was an election year. Normally, it's a goal of $30-50 per day for each person. This girl, who had done this for a year, partnered with me, and she was just such a nice girl, but no one was donating despite her charm. I did a few, and fared no better. Finally, I knocked on a door and a dude comes out. I did the script kind of half-assed, mainly because I was impressed by his sound system in his living room that I had peaked. He showed it off to us, offered us a drink, and went off to get his checkbook. He comes back with his wife, and she was like, ooh, let me get my checkbook too. The guy asked us what we normally get per week for this, and the girl I was with told him on a good week, around $200-250. The guy makes a face and was like, nah, that can't be right, and hands us a check for $5,000. Then his wife shows up and was like, you did 5. I'll do 6, and gave us another check, but for $6,000. We were speechless and my partner started to cry. The guy also asked us to give him a call by the end of the week so he can follow up with our efforts. I found out later that he was a retired music producer who was super loaded but lived in a normal looking house outside of Oakland. Crazy stuff. Buy a brand new $60,000 BMW without hesitation. He was a Saudi dude I was tutoring in English and he needed a car. So he just bought one with the same attitude that one would have when buying a gas station sandwich. People with that kind of money are just living in another reality. A long time ago, I worked as security at a casino. I remember once watching a man bet $15k, $5k chips, a hand at blackjack and lose literally every hand without any reaction whatsoever. He probably lost $60k in the 5 minutes I sat watching him. Also, there used to be an elderly guy who would come in and have the entire section of the high roller slot machines reserved for himself. He'd spend 10 or 12 hours going down each row pulling handles at between $100 and $500 a spin. He would usually give advance notice that he was coming, and there would be servers and attendants specifically assigned to him while he was there. Delivered a pizza to a hotel. Dude was super drunk and had a bottle of expensive scotch almost finished. Bribed me like $20 every 10 minutes to keep talking to him by literally throwing money onto a chair every few minutes. Let me try to his 15k Rolex and offered me the keys to his classic car for free. Dude was boasting the whole time about owning an oil company too. Turns out he wasn't lying when I looked him up. Still didn't want to risk a millionaire sending lawyers after me when he sobers up and realizes he gave away his car while drunk. My office had a conference in DC a few years back. We had all of our executives and customers staying at the Westin. I got a call from my on-site counterpart and she said that she had to bump our most VIP customer from their room because Snoop came to town unexpectedly and that was his room. So we had to move our customer so Snoop could have his Sheldon Cooper moment. When I was a kid, around 1975 we went on vacation to Florida. My dad's boss was rich and let us stay in one of his condos in Vero Beach. The place was sick. Shag carpeting everywhere, again, 1970s, and one of the closets was so big we turned it into a bedroom for one of us kids. He let us use his boat to go fishing. It was the most awesome thing we'd seen. Or so we thought. Then we went to his home. It was nearby, somewhere around Sebastian, I think. It was on a private island. We had to have an access card to get through the back gate. Again, 1975. This was some science fiction shit back then. Anyway, we get to the house, and there's shades of shag carpeting we hadn't even dreamed of. Huge windows that looked out on this impossibly green lawn sort of thing. I had no idea what golf was then, but that's what it was. Dude's house backed up to a golf course. A private golf course. On the way through the house we came across this television set that had this weird bunch of numbers running across the screen. It was a stock ticker. Dude had cable TV and a business channel before anyone had anything more than 3 channels. So we had some snacks, some Fresca. Fresca was mind-blowing to 10-year-old me and went out on the golf course. There was this little river that ran between his property and the one behind his, and he stood there on the green, cigar in hand, and told us about the funniest thing he'd ever seen. A gator, again, Florida, had gotten into the river, and his neighbor lady came out of her house, curlers in her hair, broom in her hand, yelled at the gator, and tried to shoo it off the property. Almost right on cue, she came out and waved. He waved back and laughed. Refurnish an entire house with brand new expensive designer furniture and toss out the old designer furniture on the curb like it was broken down junk. Couches, beds, wardrobes, you name it. The old furniture was only a year old. They'd purchased it all brand new the year before. I worked on a 124-foot yacht and went to look, and another yacht he was interested in buying that was stored and owned by the shipyard. The broker was being a real dick, so we just walked off, but he really wanted this classic, and he called the yard owner. After not getting much help he calls his legal team, tells them to buy the whole fucking yard. 2 weeks later and he and his team took possession of the yard, his new yacht, Trumpy, and several others. Told me to come with him for the management meeting and fired the fuck out of the broker. I got my first real captain's job out of the deal. There's an old man from my area who is incredibly frugal whilst being very wealthy. He wears old, worn out suits all the time and carries a backpack instead of a briefcase. A couple of years ago, he wanted a new car and took a taxi to a Jaguar dealership to have a look at the newest models. The sales guy looked him up and down and basically treated him with nothing but disdain because of the way he looked, eventually asking him if he really thought he could afford a Jag. Old boy says come look at this and opens the bag to show the guides full of new stacks of cash, then calls to the taxi driver and says take me to the Land Rover dealership. Tipped the taxi driver 3 figures for playing it cool. Solved a minor inconvenience by buying a truck. I was loading my car after a Home Depot trip and a few spots over was a couple who just bought several large bags of mulch. Well, they couldn't fit all their mulch in their E-Class Mercedes, so the wife told the husband to go to the car dealership across the street and buy a truck. And that's exactly what the husband did. He walked across the street to a Toyota dealership and bought the first used truck he saw to move the mulch. A girl I knew in high school said that she had some issues with her family, so she took her backpack and booked a flight to Dubai Point, and the furthest place I could go when I was angry with my parents was my bedroom. When I was a teenager I went to live with my uncle. He put me in this private school where the student parking lot was like a fucking car show. And then my uncle was one of those responsible wealthy parents who was all you do not need a car like that given to you. Also watch everybody else go out and crash them. So my cousins all got to drive these hand-me-down regular Hondas or Toyotas. I witnessed many attempts by various cousins to rectify the car situation, and they lost every single time. He'd be like, if you want to trade up you can use money from your job. Them, that'll take forever. Him, that's the point. Weirdly enough, he is raising rich kids that people tend to like. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Also share the video with friends.